5 mistakes that I've made in this shop that I won't do again in my next shop. Hey guys, my name is Robert Dailey and this is the recreationalwoodworker.com, where we help you build great furniture, and this is my farewell shop tour of this shop. We're moving to a new house and I'm moving into a new shop, and so I'm trying to do a shop tour and show the things that I liked, disliked, and an overview of my shop. This is of course a part of a 3-part series. Part 1 was just the quick walkthrough of the shop showing you what I did. Part 2 is this video of 5 things that I don't like about this current shop. And then part 3 will be 5 things I really do like about this shop. So be sure to subscribe so you can see the next video in this series, and be sure to give this video a like as well. So 5 things that I will do different in my next shop. And number 1 is directly behind me, and that is this huge monstrosity of a lumber rack. I thought it would be awesome, and truthfully in a lot of ways it is, but there's a lot of things I don't like about it. The first thing I don't like about this lumber rack is the amount of space it takes up. This thing takes up 5 feet on the ground and then 8 feet back. 5 times 8 is 40, so that's almost 40 square feet of space that I lose in my shop. And I would have done something completely differently knowing what I know now. What will I do with my lumber is I'm going to put it on the wall. So that actually leads us to number 2 of, well, number 1, I won't have this. I'm going to come up with other solutions for my plywood and stuff. But number 2 is I'm not going to do these wall-mounted cabinets. Again, whenever I got into the shop, I was thinking, I finally have a shop that's big. I even finally have an indoor shop, because I had been working out of my trailer, and of course I have trailer tours and a more detailed shop tour than this. But I just started over there, built cabinets all the way down. Holds a lot of crap. And what went up there? Mostly crap. And it just took up a lot of space, and it was not useful for what I need. So in the next shop, I will do probably a French cleat system on the wall. That way I have the modularity to build a purpose-built cabinet if I need to, or what I'm mostly going to do is move my lumber storage to the walls. You can buy those metal wall-mounted lumber racks for like $25, $30. So I can mount them all along my wall, have my lumber up out of the way, and then store it there and store it at the hardware store. That's another thing that I'm going to be doing more of. But it will free up this wall space to be used for a lumber rack, things like that, because I don't like tools on my wall. I like tools in my drawers at my workstation. That's just how I roll. The third thing I'm going to do differently in my next shop is get rid of my big table saw. No, I'm just kidding. I will not get rid of this table saw unless I absolutely had no choice. This thing's great. If you can afford a big, huge cabinet table saw, they're great for your shop. They are not necessary, because a good job site table saw and a track saw will do everything and more that a table saw like this will do. However, I will get it out of the way. So in a lot of woodworking magazines, journals, websites, shop tours, etc., they're going to tell you that the table saw is the hub of the shop, and therefore it deserves to be smack dab center of the workshop. I use my table saw on every single project for multiple things. While the table saw should be a priority and have its own dedicated space and area where it's easy to use to its full capability, safely, efficiently, all that kind of stuff, having it in the center of my shop is a pain in the butt most of the time. What I think should be the center of your shop is your primary workbench assembly table. That gets 90% of the use, and everything else should work towards supplying that center workbench. So that's what I'm going to do in my shop. Now, I've put my table saw a few different places in the shop. I've had it where the outfeed goes that way. I've had it basically where my lumber rack is and everything flowed around it. That probably worked the best, but it just didn't work in this space. And this is, in this particular layout, this is kind of just the best place for it. But seriously, If I had to do it again, no, in my next shop, like, my table saw will not be the centerpiece of my shop. It will be over to the side and mostly out of the way. So the fourth thing that I will do different in my next shop is I will prioritize my finishing area. This is kind of my finishing area. It is what it is. It was kind of the best place for it here. And I guess that's a good lesson that I can include in this, and that everything is a compromise in a smaller shop. And even in a big shop, like, what might be the perfect finishing area might be the more perfect CNC table area or something like that. So everything's a compromise and a trade-off, and nothing is going to be perfect. So don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. Sometimes it's just, this is the best we can do in this situation. And honestly, this was it. The entire shop was, we got in, we got working. I really need to sit down and edit like day one of the shop and do kind of like a voiceover of just all the pictures of, we came into this blank slate with one circuit and made it what it is today with, 220 everywhere, AC, insulation, tons of lighting, great place to work. But everything's got trade-offs and nothing is ever going to be perfect. So don't let that stand in your way of doing what you need to do to make your workshop work for you. But one thing I will prioritize in my next shop is my finishing area. Having a place with good ventilation that I can set up and spray easily. We do almost all sprayed finishes. Right now I'm able to move that outside, and in the shop overview video, which is the one right before this, I went into how I set up my outdoor finishing area a little bit more. In my new shop, that's not going to be an option, just with the surrounding houses, the town it's in. Setting up like that might not be an option, or probably isn't going to be an option, but having a dedicated space inside that's really set up to finish and finish well is extremely important. And I would argue that having a good finishing setup is almost more important than I would say it is more important. It's more important than the joinery you use, the materials you use, whether you're hand cutting all your dovetails or if you're just using pocket screws to do everything. The simple fact is, the best woodworking in the world will look like crap if it's not finished well, and a mediocre piece can look amazing if it is finished well. So taking the time to create a good finishing area where finishing well is easy is going to be a priority, because while finishing is one of the most important aspects of woodworking, it is my least favorite. And so if something is something I really don't want to do, I don't like doing, I want to make it as painless and as easy as possible to do the work I need to do. So that's something I will prioritize in my next shop, is my finishing area. And I won't just have, this stores all my finishes. I have my little finishing cart right here. It works, it does the job, but it's frustrating to use this area for finishing. It's frustrating to set up outside to do my finishing. So that's something I will absolutely do different in my next shop. So the final thing, the fifth thing that I'm going to do different in my shop, I could probably make a list a million miles long if I really wanted to. But the final mistake I made in this shop was not focusing on mobility first. Yeah, most of my workbenches are on some form of casters and can roll, but just being able to roll doesn't mean it's easy to roll. So being able to rearrange the shop to suit whatever I'm doing at the time would have been a huge asset. Now, I can move things around, that's possible, but sometimes it's a pain because I didn't go with mobility first. My lumber rack is a great example of that. It's this huge, monotonous thing that's permanently installed that I can't move somewhere else. Same thing with the cabinets on the wall. I can't move them, rearrange them. It doesn't give me the flexibility I need in a small space. So in a small space, flexibility is essential. My miter saw, I can't move. Most of the time it's fine right where it's at, but it's not easy to roll around. And that's something I will focus on in my next shop, and that's one mistake I made here, was not prioritizing that from the get-go, because I was blown away by how huge I thought this shop was at the time. And I thought it's like, oh, permanent setup, permanent setup, permanent setup. And no, I should have come in with the same mindset I had in my trailer of I need to be able to move and rearrange as the job requires. For dog kennels, this is about the perfect setup, because we're able to move things around, furniture pieces, dressers, one-off cabinets. But whenever I'm building like a big, huge king-size bed that takes up the whole shop, I need to be able to rearrange and still work, and I wasn't able to do that well. Made it work because adapt, overcome. But having everything on wheels, I'm focusing a lot more on my modular shop carts, which is what this is sitting on. I'll show you that real quick. But I'm focusing a lot more on these to be my primary work surfaces, because they're easy to move around and they can adapt to what I need them to adapt to. This big huge workbench is great, but it has these little tiny casters on it where it's a pain in the butt to move. This is phenomenal with the big casters on it. So that can roll around very easily where I need it to do, and whenever you lock those guys, it's rock solid. So that's pretty much it. That is the 5 things I'll do differently in my next shop. I'm of course going to be shooting tons of videos over my next shop showing you that, so hopefully I will have a tour video up after this 3-part series is over. Hopefully it will be part 1 of building out the new shop, because it's kind of a blank slate, a lot like this one was, and I'm going into it with all the knowledge that I gained from working in the shop. So be sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, so you'll see more of my content. If you disliked it, dislike it. And after seeing this space, what would you have done differently in here? If you have any questions, I try to answer every comment. Let me know in the comments below if you have questions, and we'll see you next week.